everybody, to today's Two Saints podcast show. Myself, Mark C, my co-host, Mark H. Hi, Mark, how you doing? Busy week?
Yeah, it's been a good week. Been a busy week off the field, so a lot to get through if you're, a Saints fan, and busy show today. Busy show.
Absolutely.
But I hope everybody's keeping well and keeping safe.
Absolutely right. So quite a lot of information to get through for you today, but just to let everyone know, the ways of getting in contact with us and the ways of catching up with the show, the podcast show, is if you go onto Facebook, you can find us on Facebook, the Two Saints Show. You'll see our logo on there, black logo of football on there. It says Two Saints Show. Have a look for that. Go onto that page and you can actually get the latest version of our podcast. You can have a listen to it there. If you don't want to listen to it there and then, you can actually ask us to send it to you directly by messaging us on that page. You can also go to our YouTube channel, the Two Saints Podcast Show on YouTube. You can check us out on there. You can also do that via Acast, Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Also, we've now launched a new Fantasy Premier League. The Two Saints Podcast Show is the name of the league, and the league code is LLV4C4. And in order to get onto there, you'll need to go to the website, which is fantasy.premierleague.com. If you go onto there, you'll be able to find us on there, and obviously using that code, you'll be able to join up for the league. Also, we've set up a new email address for the show and also for the Fantasy League, and that email address is the Two Saints Podcast Show at Outlook.com. So that's the Two Saints Podcast Show at Outlook.com. So feel free to email us on there. Anything to do with the show, any feedback on the show, anything to do with the league, the Fantasy Premier League, or anything else you'd like to talk to us about, please feel free to drop us a note there. Right, anyway, coming up for you in today's show, we have Saints club news, other football news, and Saints transfer news and gossip. So quite a lot to get through. We're going to take a very small break. When we come back from there, we'll be getting straight into things. So as to coin a phrase, the Two Saints are literally going to go marching in a couple of minutes.
It's Mark C and Mark H. Mark my word, they're here with everything in the Two Saints Show.
Story links for Saints news. Fraser is part of our squad. Forster will be given an opportunity to win the Saints spot back. EFL trophy dates confirmed. Return to St Mary's. Trio sign first professional contracts. Academy sign 4 new scholars. Season ticket seat relocation opens next week. Report Saints hit 7 past Swansea in friendly. Hasenhüttl pleased with pre-season opener. Ward-Prowse, you can see the confidence flowing amongst everybody right now. Saints women learn their first set of league fixtures. Southampton Saints set to lose £2 million from main shirt sponsor change. Former Saints keeper Tim Flowers named Macclesfield manager. Radhi Jaidi, I want to be the first African to manage in the Premier League. Hasenhüttl admits time and international breaks not perfect. Under 23s report Saints won Coventry 3. And Nundu, it was a good test. And that will take us right up to the news and weather at 1 p.m. So, starting with the very first article, which is Fraser Forster is a full part of the squad, Mark, which is good news for him, and I would imagine probably good news for most Saints fans that wanted to see him back on board after all the troubles he's had.
I mean, it's an interesting one. I'll be interested to hear, the direct quotes that Martin Siemens has to say in the article, but as I say, it looks like everybody's on board. It looks like he's on board for the season. He played during the week for the under-23s, and hopefully that means that, I would say you're probably going to see him on the bench next season. He'd be in amongst the subs, until Alex drops a clanger or whatever. Right. But obviously he's fully back on board for the new season.
So the headline actually read, goalkeeper Fraser Forster will be given an opportunity to win back his spot in the Saints side, according to the club's chief executive Martin Semmens. So just check if there's any direct quotes, and the direct quotes were, there's never been an issue with Fraser from a relationship point of view, Semmens told BBC Radio Solent. Went on to say, he's always trained brilliantly, he's a fantastic guy. Ralph and him have never really had any issues, and they've not had a lot of time together. He's obviously always been our player and one that we watched carefully. Made an active decision to come back. He didn't want to stay at Celtic anymore. He wanted to come back and play for us, so we'll give him that opportunity. He's been a full part of the squad since he came back. Couldn't be during the games in July because he wasn't allowed to be part of that squad, but now he's a full part of it. He's training and doing really well, so we'll see how that develops, but he's a full part of our squad going forward. That tells me that Fraser might well have been the man that came back with coronavirus symptoms from his holiday then, Mark, if he wasn't allowed to play. Well, probably fair to assume that anyway.
All I would say is, Mark, all I'm reading into that is, okay, fair enough, full part of the squad, and he can look forward to this season with Southampton. But the thing is what was the issue then last season?
Well, when
he was out to Celtic, what was actually the issue there? Could we not afford to, pay all his wages or something? All I'm saying is it's just a strange one. He's on board for this season, didn't want to stay at Celtic. I get all that, right? But the thing is like he wouldn't have went out to Celtic if he wasn't looking to sort of get games under his belt and get noticed by other clubs. But obviously, look, I'm happy he's here, and I'm happy he's going to be, I mean, I would have thought he's going to be the backup, so he's going to be on the bench.
Absolutely right. So we'll move on to the next story, which is EFL trophy dates confirmed. So Southampton's youngsters will kick off their 2020-21 EFL trophy campaign against Stevenage next month before facing trips to Northampton Town and MK Dons in October and November. So this obviously relates to not the first team. This obviously relates to under 23s or under 18. So or Southampton B as they're going to be at some point in the future. So
Right.
yeah, they've been drawn in Group C for the season's trophy alongside MK Dons, newly promoted Northampton Town of League 1 and Stevenage of League 2. And Saints are actually one of 15 invited Premier League teams to compete against third tier and fourth tier clubs. And they're doing this for the 5th season in a row. So be interesting to see how they go, Mark, because pre-season's not been going superbly well so far, has it? Been a bit different.
Well, not for the under 23s. It hasn't. I mean, obviously the loss during the week there wasn't great. Given that it was a championship side, you know, so it was good experience for those that had played. But most of the ones that were playing are all sort of experienced under 23-year-olds. You know, the Jake Heskeths and Josh Sims. You know, they were all playing. So it was, you know, it was a good run out for them, I would say. You know, a good tester for the start of the season.
Definitely.
And let's see where we'll go from here.
Absolutely.
But in terms of that actual trophy, Mark, I mean, we haven't made it out of the group in the last 3 seasons.
Yeah,
haven't made it out of the group in the last 3 seasons. So let's hope we at least make it out of the group. I don't see the point in under 23s being in there unless we're actually trying to achieve winning the trophy and getting to Wembley. Because I don't care. I don't care if it's a Tim Pot. You know, I don't care what Tim Pot trophy it is.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a trip to Wembley at the end of the day.
Exactly. Yeah, I'd much rather see us put out a full strength under 23 side and actually go for it. You know, if you're going to enter it, go for it. Try and win it. You know, it's like the FA Cup when Saints do it. You know, I'll get other teams put in weakened team, but I always think my own team Saints. I always wish we'd just go with full strength team in the FA Cup and actually try and win the thing. You know, we weren't worrying about it in '76 when we won it, were we? We weren't worrying about playing a weakened team. We played the best team we could put out and we won the damn thing. You know, have a good go at it.
Look, I'm sure the winners of '76, you know, they never tire of talking of it, but they'd like to be able. I'm sure they'd like to be able to share the limelight with another Saints team and actually get another trophy in the cabinet.
Well, I'm sure they have days when they sit there and think, "Cool, blimey, come on, can't you guys win it for once?" So we don't have to keep talking about it all the time. What's everyone going to talk about when we're no longer here? God rest their souls. You know. So anyway, moving on. Over the coming weeks, Southampton Football Club will be bringing fans regular updates as they prepare for a return to St Mary's. So they've been working with both the government and Premier League guidelines on how and when fans be returning to St Mary's and can share the latest update. And the latest update, ticketing and stadium entry. During the summer, they've installed new access control system, meaning turnstile readers and handheld devices for stewards allow tickets to be scanned directly from phones for the first time. Supporters will be required to enter the stadium using tickets stored on their phones or by using print-at-home tickets. Please note this change has been made in line with government advice and obviously to reduce physical touch points, which is great. They'll be delaying sending out season tickets and membership cards until a time when all season ticket holders can be admitted to the stadium. So they're not going to be doing it like they normally do, which is different. And obviously reduced capacity. Highly likely there'll be capacity restrictions when fans are first allowed back. The club have been working on a system which provides fair and equitable access, albeit weighted towards our most regular attendees. Will seek to give every season ticket holder who wishes to attend a chance to do so within the first few games, following supporters being allowed back. And safety on match days, they're working with the government and Premier League guidelines to implement measures ensuring the well-being of all visitors to St Mary's and people at high risk. Although the government for guidance for people at high risk has changed, they're no longer being advised to shield. The club understands some fans will be not comfortable returning just yet, even with the mitigating measures in place. In this circumstance, you do have an opportunity to opt out of any selection process for returning to matches with reduced capacity, which is really good. And bubbles and groups. Club are working to ensure supporters can select their social bubbles in groups of up to 6 people from 2 households. We'll need your help to understand more about your group. So they've put quite a bit of info out there, Mark. And it seems like they're obviously gearing up towards a return to St Mary's.
Yeah, I would say that most of it is fairly good news for most of the supporters.
Yep.
The only downside, you know, because it's good that, you know, we're in a technological age at the end of the day, even though I'm a bit of a technophobe. But you know, the thing is it's good for people who use their smartphones all the time. You know, it's quick access. You know, you're not having having to go up and sort of, again, it's funny that we're in the middle of COVID, but you're not having any sort of having to have any physical contact with anybody. So good from that aspect. The only everything was good in the article. The only downside for me, Mark, and I don't know how you feel about this, is I don't know if I'm totally in favour of a completely cashless stadium, because the thing is what happens if you come out without your card?
Yeah, exactly that.
Right, and the thing is the only other thing you're probably going to have on you is cash.
Well, so how's that? You got a lot of grandparents who take their grandkids with them who don't take cards because they don't use them. A lot of grandparents, and I'm one of them, don't actually use a card when they go to football. They'll take cash with them. So
it widens it out, because the thing is like, you're talking about, the whole sort of not having their cards on them. It's like the same thing with a club where, go online. A lot of the supporters, season ticket holders that are over 65 aren't online.
Well, the thing is as well, it's a very easy fix with cash. You simply ask people to wear gloves, or you ask yourself to wear gloves, and then you eliminate the issue of handling cash, don't you? But that's just my personal thought on that.
Oh, that's true. But I mean, in the main, yes, the article's great, and obviously the advice is there for people if they need it.
Yeah.
But as I say, the only downside would be the bit about the cashless stadium.
Yep. Okay. Anyway, we'll move on from there. So, two stories here relating to the Saints Academy. So, Saints have signed a trio of first professional contracts, and these have been awarded to James Morris, David Agbontohoma, and Lucas DeFees have been given their first professional contracts. The trio have signed 1-year deals and will now continue their progression through the academy by joining David Horseman's under-23 side. Morris, who's a fullback, has been with the academy since he joined the under-10s and has amassed 264 appearances. The Saints fan, originally hails from Portsmouth, shared how this is a dream come true for him and his family. It's a proud moment, he said. Signing the first professional contract anywhere would be great. Signing it at the club I've supported since I can remember. My family all being fans, it makes it special. I joined at under-10s, so I've been here quite a while now. Seeing how the club's developed has been great, and now with all these great facilities, to see everyone progress has been a great experience. So that's really good news from the under-23. And moving on to the under-18s. The news, the under-18s have actually made 4 signings, and these are 4 new scholars for the academy, and these are Leon Pambu, Matthew Carson, Fidel Ross Lang, and the already announced signing of Luke Pearce joined the club as part of the latest intake into the under-18. All 4 have signed 2-year scholarships, but both Pambu and Ross Lang have also been offered professional contracts for a year to be at the club till 2023. So those are the 4 for the under-18s. Leon Pambu, Matthew Carson, Fidel Ross Lang, and the already announced signing of Luke Pearce. And obviously, just to remind you of the under-23 signings again, those were actually James Morris, David Agbontohoma, and Lucas DeFees, and they've all actually signed their first professional contracts. So 4 for the under-18s, Mark, and 3 for the under-23s. So good news, and obviously one of them being a Saints fans, obviously even better news.
Yeah. But just on that, I mean, it's obviously it's good to see 3 of them signing professional contracts. So basically moving up to the next kind of level.
That's right.
As you said, there's a lad there that's obviously signed Matthew. Is it Matthew? His name is
James Morris, I think it is.
James Morris, right? And he's from Portsmouth, but obviously he's a Saints fan. So obviously it's a dream come true for someone like himself. The other thing that I would say is like good news about obviously the lads signing on, the other 4 lads signing on. Obviously I have a vested interest there because there's a young lad called Matthew who's obviously from my neck of the woods. So I'm looking forward to seeing his progress. But also good luck to the other trialists. I mean as we touched on before, Mark, it is a bit disappointing that there isn't more local.
Yeah,
I mean, I'd love to see, and I know, Saints are probably doing all they can in that area, but it's like I said, Saints rock up at exit trials every season.
Absolutely right.
And then they cherry pick the players basically that the bigger clubs don't want. The Man City, the Arsenals, and the Chelseas.
Yep. Absolutely right. So we'll move on to the next story there, because obviously we've got an awful lot to get through today. So this is news that the relocation of season ticket seats is due to happen next week. So season ticket holders looking to move their seats for this season's campaign will be able to do so by contacting the ticket office next week. So you'll actually be able to call the ticket office via the phone number, which is 02381 780 780. That number again is 02381 780 780. Or you can visit the ticketing representative in the stadium store from 10 a.m. on Tuesday, 8th of September. So you can get in contact those 2 ways, and that's if you would like to move your season ticket seat for the upcoming campaign. We'll move on from there. I'm not going to dwell on it too long because I think we've probably, unless there's anything Mark wants to add in.
No, not
Right, we'll
really.
move on then.
That one was self-explanatory.
Absolutely. So, moving on to the next report that the rundown of what happened when Southampton were 7-1, yes, 7-1 victors against Swansea City in a behind closed doors pre-season friendly at St Mary's on Saturday last week. And the match was split into four 30-minute quarters. In the first 30, you had a team of McCarthy, Walker-Peters, Stevens, Bednarek, Bertrand, Romeo, Ward-Prowse, Armstrong, Redmond, Adams and Ings. So pretty much a full-strength side, I think you'd probably say. Started very well.
Yeah,
Saints took 6 minutes to take the lead, courtesy of Shay Adams, starting where he left off at the end of last season, which is fantastic. A really perfectly placed ball over the top from Alex McCarthy, who seems to have sorted his distribution out on that one, apparently. Anyway, so... yeah, really good. Found the run of Ryan Bertrand. He had the simple task of squaring the ball to Adams, made no mistake. Saints swiftly moved the ball from front to back with free-flowing football. Adams had a chance to double his tally for the afternoon on 10 minutes, unfortunately didn't. Played a through ball for Danny Ings to race onto. He reversed the favour and picked him out of the back post, only for his volley to flash wide. However, it wasn't long for Hasenhüttl's side rewarded once again. So on 13 minutes, they doubled the lead through Nathan Redmond. The one possession high up the pitch with some tenacious work from Oriel Romeo. Redmond then obviously scored. We had goals from Ward-Prowse, I believe, chipped in with 2 as well. 2 for Danny Ings, I believe, in total, and also 1 for Ryan Bertrand, which was an absolute crossbar buster. I swear he was trying to break the crossbar mark. But we ended up with a winning score of 7-1 to Saints. So slightly weakened team in the last bits of the game, but the full strength team made a huge impact and were pretty much outside by half time.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is like in terms of, you know, the start of the season and everything else, I think it just emphasises that because there wasn't that much of a break, Mark.
Yep.
You know, Saints have effectively been able to sort of carry on where they left off.
Yeah, and they certainly have.
Although, you know, in the sense that evening up the score, because I don't ever like to get too carried away, you know, because you know that isn't Saints really.
Yeah.
You know, all I'll say is the bottom line for me would be that, you know, Swansea, a lot of their players were on loan last season, and obviously they've gone back to their parent clubs, right?
Yeah.
They haven't made that many moves in the transfer market yet. So obviously, you know, we're not actually probably playing their first team as is going to look when they kick off the season. But having said that, nonetheless, you know, Swansea were in the playoffs last season, and as far as I know, you know, the team that you read out played the first 2 half hours.
That's correct, yeah.
Right? And by that time, I believe we were already 6-0 up before the reserve team came on, you know, for the last 2 half hours. You know, and I mean that just tells its own story, Mark.
Right,
to be 6-0 up, you know, and then bring on effectively what is your reserve side,
yeah,
you know, and run out 7-1 winners.
Absolutely.
You know, it's still a good on the face of it. It's still a good result. You know,
definitely.
You got to reserve judgment a little bit until the real thing starts.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's just nice to know they've kept those fitness levels and kept that intensity there, because that was the important thing. Apparently they had that intensity and that fitness level for the first 60 minutes, which is great. That's what you want to hear and that's what you want to see. So yeah, not getting carried away, but it's nice to see they've started where they left off. So let's hope they can continue that on into the start of the season, which is not far away now, obviously. Ralph Hasenhüttl said he was very pleased with the chances his side created. He stated, "Our goal is to be more flexible when we're on the offensive and come more often into interesting situations around the box. Played quite well in the first game. We're still trying to develop our game. It was better than what we saw last season. It's clear it's only a friendly against a championship team." So he was keen to stress that as well. In the first half, showed some good movement and good news, good new items we're working on. Not perfect, as it's the only time of the year you can work directly with the team. But good thing is last season was not so long ago, so it's not as difficult, and for everybody it's the same. So that was what Ralph had to say. The interesting part's what he had to say. And James Ward-Prowse said, "You can see the confidence flowing amongst everybody right now, and admitted it'd be quite a bit strange for Saints squad not to be fully together before the start of the season, but added we've all had to maintain our focus." He's one of a number of players jetting off on international duty ahead of the start of the Premier League campaign. His form obviously earned himself and Danny Ings have recalled to the England squad. Shane Long got called up for Ireland, Yannick Vestergaard Denmark, Stuart Armstrong Scotland, and Jan Bednarek Poland. So onwards and upwards for all of them. Let's hope they all get through their international duty unscathed, because we've got quite a nice set of running fixtures at the start of the season, and we don't want any key players missing, do we?
But my bigger concern, Mark, wouldn't be the fact that they might get injured.
Yeah.
My biggest concern is that anybody who's on international duty doesn't come back with a virus.
That's right. Absolutely right. So we're going to go down some of the other headlines we've got, and then we'll pick out the ones that me and Mark think we should give you a little bit more time to, because obviously there's an awful lot to get through today, a lot of content, which is great. We love Saints content, and we've got plenty of it. So Saints women learn their first set of league fixtures, which is really good. So they've got those down now. Saints have learned the first set of fixtures for the Women's National League Division 1 South West campaign, so we'll come back to that shortly. Saints are set to lose approximately £2 million from changing their shirt sponsor from Audi Sports over to sportsbet.io. Former Saints keeper Tim Flowers has been named Macclesfield town manager. I believe he was at I can't remember the name of the team, but
Solihull Moors.
Solihull Moors, that was it. Thank you, Mark. I knew you'd remember. I definitely had a brain fade there for a minute. Radhi Jaidea said he'd like to be the first African to manage in the Premier League. He's obviously of African descent. Ralph Hasenhuttl has admitted the timing of the international break isn't perfect. Saints under 23s, we have a report from the game where unfortunately the under 23s went down 3-1 to Coventry. Highlight of that was Jake Vokins obviously scored for the under 23s. So good for him. And Dan and Lundaloo said it was a good test. So we'll go back to the first one, Mark. Any take on the first set of league fixtures for the women? I'll give you some of those and we'll see what you think of those. So, right, here we go. The confirmed fixtures at present are September the 20th, Poole Town away. September 27th, Buckland Athletic home. October the 11th, Exeter City home. 25th October, Maidenhead away. Then move to November. November the 8th, Brislington home. 22nd of November, Swindon Town away. 29th November, Larkhall Athletic home. December the 6th, Cheltenham Town away. And December the 13th, Cheshire United at home. Obviously, they saw their campaign cancelled last season due to COVID-19. So, tough set of fixtures there, do you think? Or should they sort of have a fairly good balanced season?
All I would say from my own point of view would be that, I think they're going to go up this season, mate. They were coasting the league last season, right? And it is really a provincial league that they're in. Okay, and if they had got promoted last season, I think if they get up from there, then they're in the Championship, which is basically the next one before you get to the Women's Premier League.
Yep.
Right. But all I would say is, they were coasting the league last season. They were top of the league last season and coasting it.
Yep.
And should have went up.
Yep.
COVID stopped all that.
Right.
The other thing I would point to would be, they got to the semi-finals of the League Cup last season as well.
Yeah.
Unfortunately got knocked out in the semi-final stage, but they actually beat Portsmouth, who I believe are a championship club in the women's game.
Yep.
Right, they actually beat them in the quarter-final stage. So I can't see why they can't go through those fixtures. I'm not going to say be unbeaten because I'm not. You never be that cocky about football. But
we're not with Saints anyway.
all I would say is they're in a position of strength, mate.
Yeah.
And they should be able to do it. And the other thing I was going to point out about the fixtures is they've only announced fixtures to December because obviously with the situation the way it is, they're waiting to see. And obviously after December they'll announce the rest of the fixtures for the women.
Yep.
But good luck to them, and hopefully it's a successful campaign for them.
Let's hope so. Right, so Saints are set to lose £2 million from the main shirt sponsor change. So Southampton are reportedly set to lose around £2 million after being forced to change their main shirt sponsor weeks before the campaign. According to a report from the Telegraph, Saints will have to take this financial hit and could have to replace the replica kits that fans have already purchased this year. Now, I know you yourself, Mark, have actually returned your shirts, haven't you?
No, what's actually happened is we've managed to get a refund on our shirts.
Oh, yeah, so when I say return...
Yeah, refund.
Obviously.
So basically that was a win-win for us.
Yeah.
But just going on the article, Mark,
yep.
Right? I would have thought it was more than Saints losing £2 million because if I remember my figures right, we'd signed a deal with LD Sports for 2 years, which was for £15 million.
It's actually worse. It was actually worse than that. It was actually a 3-year agreement, £22.5 million.
Yeah.
£7.5 million a year.
£7.5 million.
Yep.
So are you telling me that the betting company's paying us £5.5 million for this season?
I wouldn't have thought so, bearing in mind they also sponsor Watford.
I don't see. I was given to believe that the fact that they were sponsoring us, it was going to be worth around £2 to £2.5 million. But maybe I'm wrong. So I don't know whether the articles actually picked it up wrong. I thought they were losing I thought they were losing around £5 million, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I mean, the article says 2 million, but it doesn't make sense because further down there it does actually say it was 7.5 million a year. It was a 3-year agreement for £22.5 million. So it doesn't. Their own maths doesn't add up, does it? In their own story.
No.
So,
but the thing is so they're saying that the betting company have signed on for £5.5 million for this season. Because don't forget, this deal's only for this season. I don't think they're paying us £5.5 million quid. I think it's closer to 2 or 2.5 million.
It's probably closer to 2.5, 3 million, 2 million. So yeah, it's around about between 2 and 3 anyway. Definitely, I'd agree with that. So former Saints goalkeeper Tim Flowers named Macclesfield manager. That's a step up, isn't it?
I'm a bit surprised, if I'm honest.
I mean, he's done well. Don't get me wrong.
He was doing great things at Solihull Moors. You know, he got them into the National Conference playoffs.
Yep.
You know, and they only just missed out on automatic. So you know, probably if you're a Solihull Moors fan, you're a bit disappointed. There's probably a bigger budget at Macclesfield, but then, you know, financials seem to be capable of paying anybody.
Yeah.
So there's a risk involved for Tim. You know, let's hope that Macclesfield of the future isn't lurching from one financial crisis to the next.
What's interesting.
Let's be honest, that's why they got relegated from the Football League.
It's interesting they've appointed Flowers as well, because he actually left Solihull Moors by mutual consent in January. So he was actually out of work. So it's a little bit of a surprise that they brought him in.
As I say, that is baffling to me. But as I say, look, I mean, it's strange that he's taken Macclesfield on, given their financial problems, Mark, and we've talked about that on the show.
Right. Yeah, we have.
But obviously, with him being ex-Saints, and, you know, I was never one great for goalkeepers. You know, I'm Peter Shelton fan, Andy Naimi fan, and Tim Flowers. So, you know, I wish Tim well, you know, and I hope he's still having nightmares about Letizier's goal, you know, against Blackburn Rovers.
Absolutely.
You know.
Right, moving on. Radi Jaidi has always relished a challenge during his playing days, whether that be with Bolton Wanderers, Birmingham City or Southampton, and still does now he's a coach. And he's actually said he'd like to be the first African coach to actually manage in the Premier League. So,
yeah,
bold ambition there.
Look, there's nothing wrong with ambition, Mark, right? But then you would have said, why then? I mean, whether it was the club's decision or whether it was his decision, you know, why move yourself to Hartford Athletic in the States if your ambition is to actually manage in the Premier League?
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure he had much choice in the matter. To be fair, Mark, I got the impression the club sort of moved him over there rather than him wanting to go there. But I don't know. That's just my take on it. I don't know about you, but that's what I thought at the time.
I mean, all I would say, Mark, is. Right, I mean, I hope he achieves it, right, because, I mean, obviously I went to quite a few under-23 games, and he's always enthusiastic on the touchline.
Yeah.
He's always encouraging the players. You know, the players aren't always doing what he wants them to do, but he's always encouraging the players. And I just hope that I hope that he gets to achieve it. And, you know, it would be lovely to see him do it with Saints, but nobody knows what the future holds. But, like, as I say about Tim Flowers and him, good luck to them both.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, and we always try and encourage our ex-players, don't we? And, you know, they're both ex-Saints. Well, Radi Jaidi's obviously still at Saints, but they're both ex-Saints from the playing perspective. But, yeah, certainly wish them all the best. I wholeheartedly agree with you there. Totally concur. Big word for me this time of day. Anyway, Ralph Hasenhüttl was admitted the timing of the international break is not perfect. Yeah, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work that one out either, does it? Week before the season's due to start. And I think you said it yourself, Mark. You've never known it where you have the Charity Shield and an international break starting the season before the season's even begun. It's crazy.
I mean, I remember a couple of seasons ago we had the Charity Shield opening day of the season and then we went straight into the international. So we've had that before, but we've never had this. And it is disruptive. You know, it's disruptive. I mean, going back to, you know, the friendly, you know, you play that game, you've just won 7-1.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody's on and up, right? You're thinking, okay, next week starts the season. Oh, no, it doesn't. We're going on an international break.
Hang on a minute. You're jumping the gun a bit. Whoa. Yeah.
I mean, it must be really frustrating for the managers.
What do you think?
Especially if they're in a bit of an up curve.
I mean, you look at Saints as well. They come off the back of that friendly win. You know, they're looking to get a bit of momentum going into the season, and then lo and behold, it's hang on, whoa, stop. international break, can't do anything else. You're going to have to start the season cold. Sorry.
And that's what it feels like. It feels like somebody's put up a warning sign or something like, you can go no further. You're going to have to wait for another week,
Hold on. Those upstarts at St Mary's are getting ahead of themselves again. Hang on, put the brakes on. that Saints team are getting a bit carried away there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a crazy situation, so I have every sympathy in the world with them, really, to be honest.
Definitely. So we move on to the under-23s report. This was the Saints versus Coventry friendly. Despite dominating possession, Southampton's youngsters fell to a 3-1 defeat to newly promoted Championship side Coventry at St Mary's. The hosts took the lead just before the break. Jake Vokins finished off a neat passing move to give Saints a deserved advantage, following a dominant first half. Coventry equalised just past the half-hour mark after withstanding a lot of pressure. Substitute Johnny Agandu firing home from close range to level the scores. City's second came 15 minutes from time. Max Biamu using his pace to latch onto a through ball and slot home to make it 2-1. Despite Saints continuing to dominate the ball, the counter proved effective for the Championship side, who added a third for a David Bremang header with 2 minutes to go. Saints started with a side that featured a mixture of experience of youth, including Fraser Forster, Jake Vokins and Jan Valery, amongst those who started in the back five. The home side enjoyed the majority of possession during the opening 15 minutes, as Dan and Lundalu and Nathan Teller both looked to threat going forward with strong link-up play. Callum Slattery also proved to be a dominant figure during the early stages, won back possession with strong challenges just past 20-minute mark before seeing his long-range effort deflected wide. First effort, which tested Coventry's Marco Morosi between the sticks, came 6 minutes later. Teller picked up possession on the edge of the box, forced a low save down to the keeper's left-hand side. Seems though they did fairly well, and Fraser obviously managed to keep the score down in the first half mark. Didn't really have a lot to do. But second half, it sounded like they weren't really at the races. And you had the
that is it in a nutshell, Mark.
As well.
Yeah, that is it in a nutshell.
A little bit
basically, they controlled the first half and had a very experienced under-23 team playing.
Yeah.
There was plenty of experience in that starting lineup.
Yeah,
and Jan Valery, you got to mention Jan Valery was in there.
Yep.
But as I say, what I would say was dominated the first half, right? Went 1-0 up, obviously, through Vokins. And I've got to be honest, mate, they had chances, but nobody had their shooting boots on.
Yeah.
Right? And then on came the second half. Obviously, there was a wave of changes as well halfway through, which, it never helps momentum when that's happening neither.
Yeah, that's right.
Especially when you're dominating and you're in the ascendancy. So anyway, you had the changes, and then obviously, Coventry just steamrolled us, really. I mean, as I say, the biggest problem we had was, nobody had any shooting boots on at all.
That's right.
There was chances there, but...
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, you had, Jake Hesketh was playing, Josh Sims was playing, Jake Vokins was playing, Jan Valery was playing, and members of the under-23s, Alfie Jones, Dan Lindeloo, Nathan Teller. These are guys that have played for the team. It's not as though they're inexperienced. Slightly worrying with that much experience in there. And they couldn't get a result.
You asked yourself how many... I know it's pre-season, right?
Yeah,
so you can't really judge too much.
No.
You do ask yourself, in the longer term, how many of these players, because they're all experienced at this level,
exactly,
right? How many of them actually have a future of stepping into the first team?
No, exactly. No, I agree with you there, 100%. It's exactly that. How many of them will actually step in, will be part of that. And yeah, I mean, for me, it's not a great indictment for our academy, is it? When you look at the strength of that team and think, they've struggled a little bit. Okay, it's against Coventry, but you expect a slightly better result than that. I mean, they had the plethora of chances as well. So, but there we go. Anyway, Saints under-23 striker Dan Lindeloo, who obviously featured in the game, said the match with Coventry was a good test as they kick on in pre-season preparations. He said, we're getting the right information from the coaches. We've got to keep listening and hopefully put it into a game. Yeah, I heartily agree with that. He said he thought it was a good test. It's important for us to continue building on our fitness and kick on the first game of the season. Still trying to understand instructions from the first team manager. I've got to show him that I can do the job. Got to keep proving myself in every game and every training session. Keep working hard. Hopefully I'll get my chance. Personal targets for the season are to work hard, start off the season well, listen to instructions, listen to coaches, and hopefully get some goals. So he's one of those players you'd look to kick on because he's not really lived up to his own billing so far, has he? As such.
No, I mean, to be fair to him, right, if you looked at that side, though, right, he was probably one of the youngest in there.
Yep.
You know, so he's a bit raw around the edges, like I've spoken to you about before. You know, there is potential there, but like everything else, Mark, you know, you're not really looking, when you look at that starting lineup, even though he's playing up front, you're not necessarily looking at him.
That's right.
You're looking at more experienced players that play week in, week out at that level, you know?
Definitely. Well, that's brought us to the end of that section.
It's Mark C and Mark H. Mark my word, they're here with everything in the Two Saints Show.
We are here with everything in the Two Saints Show. Welcome back, everybody. So, other football news. Premier League stories. Henderson signs Man United deal until 2025. Chelsea sign ex-Nice defender Sarr. Silva signs 1-year deal for Chelsea. Crystal Palace sign Eze from QPR. Leeds sign 26 million Rodrigo and Germany's Koch. Tottenham sign Doherty from Wolves. Arsenal sign defender Gabriel from Lille. Man United agree 35 million deal for Van de Beek. Rodriguez set to join Everton. Keane signs new 5-year Everton deal. Villa hoping to sign Wilson in cash. Rashford unites food giants to fight child poverty. And Liverpool versus Leeds televised games. Championship news story links. Brentford's Watkins wins top EFL award. Reading appoint Paunovic as manager. League One Elliott refused Charlton sale. Scottish football Celtic sign Brighton's Duffy on loan, and that will take us up to the next lot of songs. Right, and we've got a couple of updates for you actually to add into there, and those are Dean Henderson has signed a Man United deal until 2025. Is he going to be their number one? Can he displace De Gea? Ooh, I don't know. What do you reckon? Tough ask.
Well, I know that you're hoping he is because he's in your fantasy league team, Mush.
That's right. I've got the Arsenal keeper as backup full last fouls.
All I would say, Mark, is it's obvious now that he is going to be part of the furniture moving forward with United. You know, he won't be farmed out in loan this season, and obviously he's there, you know, as competition and potentially, you know, taking over the number one jersey, you know, from De Gea. So, you know, not really any real surprise that he signed a 5-year deal. It's pretty obvious to me that, you know, when they were in negotiations, Ollie's obviously turned around and said to him, you know, you will be given a chance this season. So I think it's a case of watch this space, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
You know,
Definitely
he was never going back to Sheffield United anyway, because obviously they've signed young Ramsdale.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, they have. Good signing for them, I think, actually, right, Aaron Ramsdale. Gone back to Sheffield United. Anyway, move on to the next one. Yeah, obviously Man United signed Van de Beek for 35 million. Former Charlton sale prohibited for 7 days. Everton agreed fee for Decore. And Fulham boss Parker signs in 3-year deal. So those are the signs we'll add in as we go, obviously.
I've got to say,
just seeing if there's a fee there. No fee mentioned, so that'll be the famous undisclosed fee.
Yeah. All I would say is, you know, Sarr's a good. He can play left back or centre half.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, I think he's a decent signing. I don't actually think there was a fee involved, Mark. I think he might have been on a free transfer.
I was going to say it's either a free, which is a staggering transfer. Yeah. It's either a free or it's one of those undisclosed ones. But yeah.
Yeah.
Another player who's signed a very short-term deal as well. Brazil centre-back Thiago Silva signed for Chelsea on a 1-year deal with the option of another. So that's an interesting one. 35 years old, obviously, so a little bit of a gamble. But he's come from PSG, so he's not done too bad. He's won the Champions League. Now he's off to Chelsea for a little while.
It's not a gamble when you're. I mean, okay, experience-wise, at that age, there's always a chance that they break down.
Yeah.
But the thing is for me, you look at it, you think to yourself, well, he played in the Champions League final, you know, last season, you know, and I mean, obviously he's a member of, you know, the Brazil national team, and you know, obviously Chelsea, they're looking to solve problems at the back. That's self-evident with Ben Chilwell and everything else that's happening. And, they're definitely going to give it a fair good go. I mean, I think people forget, because we're all sat there going, where's Chelsea getting the money from? 200 million, it's now over 200 million pound. But the thing is people forget they were suspended for a year from any transfer activity. So obviously they've been storing up the money from that year. Plus there was the transfer fees that they brought in from the previous window, which they hadn't spent. And people forget about that. They hadn't spent that money. They had the money. Obviously, they would have budgeted for transfer money within the season, last season, when they couldn't spend any money.
Right.
And they've got money for this season's budget to spend even more money in the transfer market.
Yeah, they're absolutely spoilt. Yeah, it's not. I don't think they're short of a few, are they? Yeah, it's crazy. So, Eberici Easy, or Eze, I don't even know how you pronounce this guy. Eberici Easy, I'm going to say. Crystal Palace signed QPR forward in a £19.5 million deal. So that's not no mean figure, is it? That's quite a big figure for QPR.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say, Mark, right, again, this is one that we were after. This was one that we were tracking.
Yep.
Okay? Easy. And I've got to say that, for me, he's a good signing. Whether he's £19.5 million worth of signing, I'm not so sure. The one thing that I have noticed is that clubs where they were in the same market as us, right? Where once upon a time they used to be in the same market as us, right? I've noticed that other clubs seem to be able to spend, 5 million more than we're willing to, and stuff like that. So I do, I'm not worried at the minute, but I do worry about the future, because if the club doesn't get sold at some point, and there be some investment in the football club, you do worry about the stature of the club as a Premier League outfit in, say, 3 or 4 years' time. Yeah, no,
I can't disagree with you there. Anyway, we'll move on to the next one if you're happy to, which is we've got a fair few to get through, obviously, today. Mark's done his homework and given us some really good links today, and plenty of them. So, Rodrigo. Leeds United have signed Valencia forward Rodrigo, and they've also signed Robin Koch. Or Koch. I'll say Koch, because we say it the other way. It
is Robin Koch.
Right, Robin Koch. So, Leeds United have signed Spain forward Rodrigo from Valencia for a club record €29 million fee, £26 million roughly. He signed a 4-year contract with Marcelo Bielsa's side, who are back in the Premier League after a 16-year absence. Leeds' previous record transfer was former England captain Rio Ferdinand, who cost £18 million from West Ham in 2000. The newly promoted side have also signed Germany defender Robin Koch from Freiburg for an undisclosed fee. So, couple of good signings for Leeds, I think, off the back of the fact they've come up.
Right, so I owe just very quickly, I owe the listeners an apology.
Another one?
Right, I dropped the clanger last week, didn't I? Because he hadn't signed at the time.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And because of his age, because he's 28 or 29 years of age, right? I naturally assumed that it was a minimal fee, but Leeds apparently have signed him for 29 million quid. And I looked at his goal scoring ratio, and he must be some baller, mate. That's all of it. I mean, I know a little bit about him. He plays for Valencia and all that there, right? And I have seen clips of him and stuff, but he must be some baller if he's signing for 29 million quid, And the other thing I would say is you can't tell me, right, that him signing and Robin Koch signing, who, to me, right, has been one of the best German defenders in the league, right? In the league for the last 2 seasons, right? You can't tell me that that's not the Bielsa effect.
Yeah.
And I honestly, already, I'm going to stick my neck out here and say I'd be very surprised if Leeds get relegated this coming season.
You and me both. I think they're going to be a tough proposition this season. I think they're going to surprise a few people, and I think we're going to. Yeah, I think teams are going to struggle against Leeds. I think they're going to be tough to get a result against. Could be very similar to Sheffield United this season, to be fair, but we'll see. Proof's in the eating, as I say, and proof's in the playing. Anyway, news: Tottenham Hotspur continue to sign players. I wouldn't say they're signing world beaters, but anyway, they're signing dependable players at best mark anyway, aren't they, to be fair? Tottenham have signed Matt Doherty from Wolves.
Yeah.
They actually signed him for an undisclosed fee. He's obviously right back for Republic of Ireland, 28, signed a 4-year deal with Spurs, made over 300 appearances for Wolves after joining from League of Ireland side Bohemians in 2010. So he's had quite a long stay at Wolves, hasn't he?
Again, right? It's
solid player.
You know, I spoke about Chelsea and the fact that they obviously want to strengthen their back line, right? And Tottenham's kind of the same, right? They've gone out, they've signed a steady performer in the Premier League. You know, it's about, for them, it's probably about having people who know their jobs inside and out. Yep. And Matt Doherty's one of those. You know, he plays right back. You know, and he's solid. He's solid, and it, you know, much as you sit there and you go, there's no frills here, and it, you know, there probably won't be any frills from Tottenham, you know, in the transfer market. But what they're doing is they're signing people that know their jobs and have a level of experience that's required.
You know what'll happen here, don't you? Tottenham will be like Arsenal used to be years ago under George Graham. They'll grind out results. It'll be 1-0, 1-0, 1-0, 1-0, 1-0. And Jose will be sat there going, and I don't care.
But exactly. And the thing is he'll wind everybody up doing it. You know, he wind them up. The thing is, Mark, you know, I know that there's a love-hate relationship between Jose Mourinho and the press, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But the bottom line is, okay, so he had a bit of a disastrous time at United, right? He's gone to Tottenham. He hasn't convinced the fans, right? Now, I'm not saying that it couldn't backfire for him, right? But you can see it happening where they're just going, you know, like you said about the old Arsenal, you know, 1-0, 1-0, 1-0. He won't give a jot as long as they're winning games of football. Exactly. You know, and it'll wind the media up something chronic.
Well, it's like people said to me in the past, you know, I wish Saints would play attractive football and blah, blah, blah. And I've actually argued the point sometimes. Yeah, I get that. But I think there's also times when Saints should play ugly football just to get a result. You know, I think at times we don't play enough ugly football. I'm not saying we should play ugly football all the time, but there is a time and a place for ugly football. And I think sometimes we've not been the best team at doing that. But Jose, for me, has probably looked at Tottenham and gone, do you know what? We're capable of winning ugly, so let's win ugly. You know, play to your strengths, as they say.
On that point, I hear that Terry Hurlock's still available and he's still looking for a club.
Jose, get in there. Yeah, where have the hard men gone? Right, anyway. Moving on to Arsenal. Arsenal signed Brazilian defender Gabriel Margalles from Lille for 26 million. The 22-year-old left-footed centre-back made 34 appearances in all competitions for Lille last season as they finished fourth in League One. Joins the Gunners on a long-term contract. They're not actually telling how long the contract is. So there's an interesting one. They're giving you the fee, but not the length of the contract. Good signing for Arsenal.
All I would say is he's been performing well in France for a number of years now, and he's 23. All I would say is it's probably through the Arsenal French connection, you know, and you know, all I would say is hopefully he turns out to be, you know, a decent signing for them. Absolutely. I mean, I've got to hold my hands up and say I don't know a lot about him other than seeing him play occasionally in the Champions League last season, because obviously he was playing alongside the ex-Saints player, you know, Jose Fonte, because he was playing, you know, he plays at Lille. Yep. But, you know, Arsenal obviously tapping into an old pipeline there, you know, the French connection, and hopefully it'll be a good signing for them. Or if you're a Saints fan and you're of a different mindset, hopefully not.
Well, there is that. So, yeah, well, given the French connection at Arsenal, I guess their next signing would be Popeye then. And I mean Gene Hackman, not Robin Williams. Ugh. Right, anyway, moving on. News out of Man United. Donny van de Beek. Man United have signed the Ajax midfielder for £35 million on a 5-year deal. So that's plus 5 million in add-ons. So 40 million, 5-year contract. He's played 175 first-team games for Ajax, scoring 41 goals, and helped them make a surprise run to the 2018-19 Champions League semi-finals alongside former Saint Dusan Tadic. And they've got a hell of a conveyor belt at Ajax for academy players, haven't they? And I believe he's come up through their academy as well, hasn't he? Yet another one off the conveyor belt.
Yeah,
There you go, Saints. You want to learn how to run an academy? Study Ajax.
I mean, all I would say is, Mark, is he's obviously gone to United. He's kind of a midfield patroller for me. He doesn't tend to get forward that much, because obviously himself and Frankie de Jong, who left Ajax, they were in the same team together, and he's not really one that tends to get forward a lot. He would tend to be. He's probably going to be a foil for Fernandes. I would have thought that this is probably going to give Fernandes more license to get forward and stuff like that, because obviously he's been a revelation since he went there from United. But Donny's definitely a very, very good acquisition, no doubt about it. £35 million plus I think it's 5 million add-ons. It's not. That's not that bad in this market.
It's not a lot for Man United either, is it? It's not as though they're short of a few quid.
No.
Right, so moving on to Everton. Michael Keane. Everton have signed the defender on a new 5-year contract. So a new 5-year deal for him. He'll be pleased with that. His family will be pleased with that. 27 years old as well. So that's going to take him sort of towards tail end of his career, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, all I would say about him, Mark, is I've got to be honest, and I was hoping that you were going to combine both the Everton.
I am. I've got the next Everton one coming up after this.
Because the thing is the Michael Keane one doesn't really inspire me. I've got to be honest and say that. Yep. I mean, Everton paid a decent amount of money for him when he moved from Burnley, and when I see him, he's solid enough, but there's nothing really about him that I sort of sit there and think, well, he stands out. I'm going to remember his performance.
Yeah, I must admit.
The
other Everton signing they've just announced will actually probably inspire people a little bit more. And that's obviously the news that Everton have agreed a £25 million deal with Watford for Abdoulaye Doucouré.
Yes.
So obviously that's 25 million for him. So it's really, really good. Probably, to be fair, that's probably a really good deal. So yeah, obviously we've put Doucouré in with Keane because obviously they're both at Everton.
And also you've got James Rodriguez signing and Alan signing from Napoli. It's a interesting bit of business. Doucouré Everton's always been after.
Yep.
Right? And they've managed to eventually get their man. I think they've been trying to get him the last 2 windows.
I've got it now. Sorry, my apologies, everyone. I've got it now. Yeah, James Rodriguez.
Just to separate James.
Yep.
I don't call him James. I call him James Rodriguez. Okay. Right, which is what the pronunciation is.
Okay.
But James Rodriguez, for me, that is an Ancelotti, inspired signing, and they wouldn't have been able to get hold of him, if it wasn't for Ancelotti.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
We're talking about £20 million here for a player that cost Real Madrid an absolute mint.
Yeah, it says
right? And then on top of that, you've got the Brazilian Alan coming in, who's a central midfielder, and he's coming in from Napoli, and I've seen him play, and he is a baller.
Yeah, they've got some quality signings coming in. Rodriguez and him, obviously both, I would say probably likely to make an impact. Be interested to see what impact Rodriguez makes, because obviously quite well hyped up some time ago. Hasn't quite lived up to the hype yet, so it'd be interesting to see how he performs in the Premier League.
I mean, Alan's very good, mate. Very good. James Rodriguez, I'd say the jury's going to be out on him.
Yep.
I mean, he hasn't lived up to his billing for me.
Yep.
Obviously he made such a big impact at the World Cup for Colombia, and we haven't really seen him recreated at club level for me. since he's moved to Europe. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And all I would say is obviously that's a Ancelotti influenced signing.
Yeah.
But Alan, I'm definitely expecting big things from him.
Yep.
The Tories not surprising, as I say, because they've been chasing him for a couple of seasons now.
Right, last bit of Premier League transfer news, I believe, is about Aston Villa. And this is Aston Villa. Callum Wilson and Matty Cash have been targeted. So Aston Villa are hoping to sign Bournemouth's England striker Callum Wilson after opening talks on a deal worth about 20 million. Wilson scored 7 goals in 35 Premier League games at Bournemouth as Bournemouth were relegated to Championship. Villa are also close to signing Nottingham Forest England right back Matty Cash. Saints were obviously linked with him earlier before the window opened. They're linked with Cash for 16 million. He was one of the standout performers in a Forest side that narrowly missed out on promotion. On the Championship playoffs, on the Championship playoffs last season. Obviously, Bournemouth already sold prime assets such as Nathan Ake and Aaron Ramsdale. We're led to believe Ryan Fraser's possibly going to Newcastle, so that's another one out the door. And if Callum Wilson follows, Jason Tyndall's got a hell of a job on his hands at Bournemouth, hasn't he? So there we go. So Aston Villa targeting Callum Wilson and Matty Cash. Probably two good signings for Villa.
So Matty Cash is a right back. We were meant to be looking at him. I mean, from my point of view for Villa, it's probably a good thing, Mark, because they actually seem to do better when they're recruiting British-based players rather than the foreign markets. I mean, they've brought in. I mean, they've brought in people like Wesley, striker, who really didn't hit the heights last season. Hopefully he'll kick on this season, but it makes a lot of sense to me where you're bringing in players, especially in Callum Wilson's case, where he's been in the Premier League for a number of seasons, right? And you would hope he'll be able to re-find his goal scoring form. Definitely. Obviously, Matt Cash is a bit more of a gamble. Plays for Nottingham Forest. Coming in from Forest, can he make the step up? I believe he can. He's a right back, and as I say, let's hope that. But I think Villa are going down the right route. I think last season they signed 11, 12 players, which is basically a whole team. And, a lot of them were foreign-based as well. Some worked out, some didn't. I mean, Trezeguet, who was the one that I highlighted from the players that Aston Villa brought in last season, right? He was named, I think he said at the time, he was named African player of the tournament in the African, or the Con Cup, as they call it, African Confederations Cup, that is. Basically, I mean, he has been really, really good for Villa since the restart, because he's the one that's been scoring all the goals, Trezeguet. Well, obviously, since the end of the season, he was the one that was responsible, in my mind, for keeping them up, although obviously Jack Grealish has a lot of influence. John McGinn has a lot of influence in that team as well. But I think they're both two really good signings for Villa.
No, I'd agree with that. Right, on to the next article, which is Marcus Rashford. This is a really good article as well, actually, to be fair. Footballer Marcus Rashford has formed a task force with some of the UK's biggest food brands to try to help reduce child food poverty. It was obviously well publicised during the lockdown. He pushed the government quite hard to make sure they were giving out vouchers for children that really need them, weren't they, for meals, etc. Pushed it really hard. Obviously managed to change the government's mind on that, so well done to him on that one. And he's now linked up, made a task force with some of the biggest food brands. So the 22-year-old Man United forward successfully campaigned to extend free school meals this summer. He wrote to MPs outlining the help he feels some families still need, including expanding numbers who are eligible for free school meals. He spoke about his own experience of using a food voucher scheme as a child and was praised for pressing the government into a U-turn on the issue. Absolutely, 100%. So the task force called in for 3 policy recommendations by National Food Strategy to be funded by government, and these are: expanding free school meals to every child from a household on universal credit or equivalent, reaching an additional 1.5 million children aged 7 to 18, expanding existing school holiday food and activity programmes to support all children on free school meals in all areas of England instead of the current 50,000 children that are helped. Increasing the value of the Healthy Start vouchers, which help parents with children under the age of 4 and pregnant women buy basic foods, from £3.10 to £4.25 per week. Expanding it to all those on universal credit or equivalent, reaching an additional 290,000 people. Fantastic. Great series continued that after lockdown. And seems as though that's a campaign he's well and truly taken up, and great credit to him on that one, I think.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the thing that people don't realise is he's brought some of the top supermarkets together under one umbrella.
Absolutely right.
You know, and I like his logo where he's turned around and said, you know, don't sit there and suffer in silence. If you need help, go out there and ask for it, because it's there.
Absolutely.
You know, and you know, he's just top lad the way he conducts himself as well.
Right, move on to the next story. Liverpool versus Leeds is among the confirmed televised games. So Leeds United's return to the Premier League against champions Liverpool on 12th September will be televised live. The game at Anfield will kick off at 5:30 BST and be shown on Sky Sports. First televised match of the new season will be earlier that day when promoted Fulham host Arsenal at 12:30 on BT Sport. And 11 of the 28 Premier League matches confirmed for September will not be available for fans in the UK to view live. Which I think, given that fans still won't be in the stadiums in full capacity, is not on. But anyway, Mark, over to you on that one.
Well, I'd like to hear the rest of some of the fixtures, or is there any other fixtures on the list there?
There are, and those are televised games. Saturday the 12th of September, Fulham versus Arsenal on BT Sport at 12:30. Liverpool versus Leeds 5:30 on Saturday 12th September. 13th September, West Brom versus Leicester City on Sky Sports at 2. Tottenham versus Everton on Sky Sports at 4:30. The 14th September, 8 o'clock, Brighton versus Chelsea on Sky Sports. 19th September, Everton versus West Brom, BT Sport. Man United versus Crystal Palace, BT Sport. Everton's 12:30, Man United's 5:30. 20th of September, 12 o'clock, Southampton versus Tottenham on BT Sport. 2 o'clock, Arsenal versus West Ham on Sky. 4:30, Chelsea versus Liverpool on Sky. 21st of September, 8 p.m, Wolves v Man City on Sky. The 26th of September, 12:30, Brighton versus Man United on BT Sport. 5:30, West Brom versus Chelsea on Sky. 27th of September, Sheffield United versus Leeds, 12 p.m. on BT Sport. Fulham versus Aston Villa, 2 p.m. on Sky. And 4:30, Man City versus Leicester on Sky. And the final one, 28th of September, Liverpool versus Arsenal, 8 p.m. on Sky. And that's all the fixtures from the beginning of the season till then.
Okay, so basically, I mean, I'm hoping that history repeats itself, right? Leeds do a Tony Yeboah, right, and obviously turn Liverpool over in that first fixture. Here's hoping anyway. But but they did do it. They did do it at Anfield back in, I think it was 95. Tony Yeboah went there. Leeds won 1-0. And it was an absolute stunning goal he scored against them, if I remember rightly. But anyway, no, getting back to it, Mark. Just to update slightly. Obviously, the government are lobbying the Premier League at the minute. Well, I say the government, Parliament are lobbying the Premier League at the minute to try and make games available, free to air again, until such times as the fans are allowed back in the stadium. I don't think you'll get as much blanket coverage as what you did at the restart, but it would be nice if they could put a few games on for the football fans amongst us, but let's see, let's watch this space. I mean, as I say, the report came out last night, so I didn't have time to include it, but we will cover it next week's show.
Absolutely.
But let's hope that they make a provision.
No, absolutely right. Right, moving on to Championship news. Brentford's Ollie Watkins won Player of the Season for the Championship. You surprised by that? Probably not.
Yeah, no, I'm not, man. I mean, I'm more surprised the fact that he hasn't moved yet, to be honest with you. I would have thought somebody would have been jumping it, because his performances in the Championship have been second to none, and I would have thought he would have moved by now. But having said that, Mark, I'm definitely expecting him to move before the October deadline.
Yep. So Ollie Watkins got Championship Player of the Season. So the 25-year-old scored 26 goals in 50 games as the Bees made the playoff final. Jude Bellingham, obviously, 17, was named Young Player of the Season after an impressive campaign which saw him move to German side Borussia Dortmund. Yeah, also saw his shirt number retired at Birmingham, surprisingly. But anyway, so there you go. So yeah, I'm a little bit surprised as well that Ollie Watkins wasn't snapped up by anybody else, to be fair. But and Saints were linked with him, weren't they, at one point? We obviously didn't sign him.
Were.
But we obviously went with Shay Adams at the time, and Shay's obviously started finding the net now, so we're quite glad we got Shay now. Anyway, so moving on to the other Championship story, which is Valko Paunovic. Reading appoints Serb as manager, replacing Mark Bowen. So Championship side Reading have appointed Valko Paunovic as manager a week before the new season starts. He replaces Mark Bowen, who'd been in charge since October, is understood to be returning to his previous role as Director of Football. So Mark Bowen, Director of Football, and this guy's come in obviously under him. He's been out of management at the Serbs since he left Chicago Fire in November 2019, following a 4-year spell with the MLS side. So Royals owner Dai Yong said, Valko's impressed us immediately. Vast experience of top-flight football as a player and coach across Europe and in the United States. Proven pedigree of successfully working with young, up-and-coming footballers on domestic and international scene. I'm confident he can help take the club forward. So they've obviously appointed him with a view that he's the man to take the club on and take it forward. What's your take on that?
All I'm going to say to you
I don't know a lot about him, to be fair.
I don't know too much about him, right?
Either.
But in recent years, Reading has gone backwards, and backwards, right? And so much so that I would say to you, they're not a top, they're a bottom 6 side in the Championship, right? They've brought in a manager that barely I can find anything about, really, apart from his stint in the American, soccer league or whatever they call it these days.
Yeah.
And I've got to be honest with you, I'm expecting Reading to struggle this season. I mean, the thing is they appointed, obviously, Mark Bowen, who was, who's the overseer, director of football sort of thing at Reading, right? To try and steady the ship and to keep them up, right? And it worked, thankfully.
Yep.
And it's a pity that he hasn't decided to keep the job on.
That's right, absolutely.
Because I think they probably have a better chance of staying up under him than a nondescript foreign manager. I'm going to say it, which you can find very little out about him.
Absolutely
I mean, don't get me wrong. I hope he proves me wrong because Reading are kind of a local side, but I don't see it. I think they're going to struggle this season in the Championship.
There was one I sort of overlooked, which is kind of Championship, kind of Premier League. So it kind of combines both, to be fair, but we'll put it in with the management one. This is the fact that Scott Parker has obviously signed a new 3-year deal as Fulham boss, and obviously Fulham have just been promoted from the Championship, haven't they? So good news for Fulham that the managers are on a longer term deal. So another 3 years for Scott Parker. Good move, I think, probably for both parties.
Yeah. I mean, someone like a Scott Parker, I've got to say, I know this is an early doors, right? But somebody like a Scott Parker, the way he's going, it wouldn't surprise me if he was an England manager of the future.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't surprise me at all. I totally agree with you on that one. Certainly wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't be a bad move, to be fair, would it? In fairness.
No, and the thing is, mate, I'm interested because you got to remember he came in whenever Fulham were already doomed, right?
Yeah.
So there was no chance of him keeping them up, right?
Yeah.
Obviously now he's coming in, he's shaping his own team, he got them promoted, and I'm genuinely interested because I'm not, there's loads of people that are saying, Fulham, they're tipping Fulham to go straight back down.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that's going to be the case. I'm really not. As long as Scott Parker can keep Tony Khan's son in check at Fulham, they'll be all right.
Yep, no, fair enough.
So, League One news. A potential takeover of Charlton Athletic has been put on hold for 7 days after a court granted an interim injunction against the sale. It allows Paul Elliott, the man looking to purchase Charlton, to the time to appeal Tuesday's verdict, where a judge refused to grant a full injunction until Elliott was able to take any such claim over ownership of the opportunity to appeal that Elliott had initially agreed a deal in May to buy Panorama Magic's 65% shareholding in the club before Panorama's majority shareholder has been looking to make a deal with Dane businessman Thomas Sandgard. So there we go. Thomas Sandgard is in town. I've got that wrong. I do apologise. Just correct that. So there we go. What do you make of that one, Mark? All a really muddy situation at Charlton, isn't it? We apologise to all the listeners.
We've covered this on the show for about the last 3 weeks running, right? And I'm sure I've got the owners wrong, the names of the protagonists wrong. It's just a complete mess.
Right.
I mean, obviously now it's become a bit clearer.
Yeah.
What's actually happening is that the original owner is looking to sell to an American-based Danish businessman.
That's correct.
As I understand it, right?
Yeah.
And because there was a sale agreed with Paul Elliott.
That's correct.
And his solicitor friend.
Yeah.
Right? And the Football League doesn't deem him to be a fit and proper person, and they're doubting whether he's got the funds to actually take control of the club and move the club forward.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're not keen for him to have it, but obviously the judge has had the, grant the injunction against it being sold for the 7 days for him to sort of, provide proof of some sort or other.
Yeah.
But to be honest, Mark, in the longer term, I can see the whole Paul Elliott situation, him just being excluded, and the original owner of Charlton being able to sell, hopefully, to this Danish-based American businessman.
Just to clarify, any remaining mud for anybody.
Danish-American-based businessman, I should say.
So, just to clarify, any remaining mud for anybody at all. Panorama's majority, so that's Panorama Magic, not the TV programme. Panorama Magic's majority shareholder is Tarnoon Nima, and he's actually been looking for new buyers because obviously Paul Elliott failed the fit and proper owners test, and obviously from the point of view of the people that he apparently agreed to deal with, from their point of view, fair game, they're allowed to sell the club, and they've been trying to, obviously, they own 65% of it. They've been trying to strike a deal, as you said, with US-based Danish businessman Thomas Sandgard. He's actually going to have to wait until 4 p.m. on September the 9th before he complete any takeover. The judge actually ruled there was a very real risk that Charlton Athletic could suffer extremely severe consequences if it was not possible for another buyer to invest. So it certainly sounds as though it's probably going to go the way that the original owner wants it to go, as opposed to the way Paul Elliott wants it to go.
Well,
given he's failed the owner's test, that might not be a bad thing, but it doesn't help the Charlton fans, does it?
All I would say, Mark, is let's hope that Paul Elliott is excluded from taking over the football club.
Yeah.
Even though he's been given this injunction, but the fans don't want them at the football club. So let's hope the owner, as is at the minute, let's hope he's able to sell to this Danish businessman who's based in America.
Yeah, the thing is as well, I think a lot of Charlton fans felt that this was D-Day for the club. Their supporters trust made it clear over the last few weeks that they feared they would be the next Bury, and I can understand why. It's significant that one of their own board members temporarily resigned her post to act as counsel on behalf of Panorama Magic. That says an awful lot. They're actually siding with the current owners. So there you go. But, wow, what a situation.
It needs to be cleared up for the Charlton fans, because they've been through the mill, and they clearly know that this guy taking over their football club would be no good for them. Following on from Roland de Chastain, who was the Belgian lad who ran the football club for a while.
Surprisingly as well.
The Charlton fans desperately want stability within that football club.
So it's actually Lauren Creamer of the Charlton Athletics Supporters Trust who actually resigned her post. More than 200 people were packed into the virtual public gallery to witness Tuesday's court proceedings, many of whom were Charlton fans, and cheered her on from behind their muted microphones. Mostly muted, that says. So there you go.
That's fantastic.
Wow. Fantastic stuff. So we're going, yeah, let's just hope it gets sorted out.
Saints fans, you know, if the shit ever really hit the fan, I'd like to think as Saints fans, you know, we would take the same sort of steps.
That's right, absolutely right. But yeah, I think that's covered that very nicely, and thankfully that's cleared that up for everybody, including all the people who've been listening to us for weeks going on about it. So there you go, people, a bit of clarity at last. Let's hope Charlton get some of that soon as well. All right, moving on.
Right, anyway, we move on to the next story there, which is relating to Shane Duffy, and I would say this is a big blow for Brighton. For me, Brighton have lost 2 key players actually. Shane Duffy is actually agreed to move to Celtic, and obviously they've just had Lewis Dunk's obviously moved. And now Shane Duffy's obviously gone to Celtic on loan for the season. So that's left them really sort of thin at centre-half, hasn't it, for Brighton?
No, they're not, mate. They've got Dan.
Oh,
Dan
and mind
Byrne.
you, they've got the young lad that's been linked with Leeds, haven't they?
They got Dan Byrne, they got Lewis Dunk, and they got the lad who was on loan at Leeds last season.
Lewis Dunk's actually moved.
Yeah, and he's just come back and signed a new contract with Brighton.
Okay.
The lad at Leeds. White. Dan White is his name. Is it Dan White?
Ben White.
Ben White. Ben White. Sorry.
Yeah,
Ben
he was
White.
much admired and much in demand. So yeah, he's But yeah, so he's obviously he's a little bit out of favour. But he made 130 appearances, scored 8 goals in 4 years with Brighton. So he's fell out of favour last season, unfortunately. So he's on his way. Obviously, Dunk as well, we were saying, had gone. But yeah, Ben White and others are there. So they seem to be all right for that at the moment. But they've Celtic apparently targeted him because he's proper physical, as they put it. So that's an interesting one, which I found quite interesting. The only other things on that article, the fact Celtic are away in Latvia or San Marino for the qualifiers for, I think it's the Champions League, is it? Europa League, one of the two? Champions League, is it?
Yeah. Europa League.
And there are in and outs of the Scottish Premiership. So if you go onto the BBC Sport website for Scottish football, you can check out the transfer ins and outs for Scottish football as well. Because we haven't got time to do those today, unfortunately.
I mean, just about the Shane Duffy deal. I mean, a few years ago, him and Lewis Dunk had a good understanding.
Yeah.
But last season, obviously, Shane Duffy wasn't playing as much, and Lewis Dunk struck up a partnership with Dan Byrne.
Yep.
You know, and what I'm saying is you got him and Dan Byrne there as the first choice, and then obviously you got this Ben White who was on loan at Leeds.
Yep, absolutely. Right, that brings us brilliantly to the end of that section. So we're going to take a very short break. So welcome back, and we're into the Saints transfer news section of today's show. So we're going to go through the transfer rumours we've got relating to Saints, and then obviously myself and Mark will discuss them. So the first one is Saints reportedly chasing Celtic centre-half Aya. So this is Saints chasing Celtic centre-half by the name of Christopher Aya, according to a report in the Express. Also, Mario Lemina and Harrison Reid have both joined Fulham from Saints. Harrison Reid in a permanent deal, Mario Lemina on loan. And Southampton have now turned their attention to Olivier Ntcham, linked to us earlier in the window, with from Celtic, Mark. So
yeah.
Starting with obviously Celtic centre-half Christopher Aya. Interesting, we've been linked with another centre-half. We've obviously already signed Mohamed Salisu. And we've been linked with obviously Omar Colley, who we've apparently already bid for, but we don't think that's a goer, but we'll see. And now we've been linked with another centre-half from Celtic again.
Yeah.
This is Van Dijk Mark II.
Yeah, I mean, Mark, I spoke about this a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. It's my belief that if everything was right, then, you know, Ralph would be looking for a second centre-half in this window. You know, and I'm sure they're keeping their irons in the fire with that. But it is my belief that before they can sign anybody or sign another centre-half, you know, they're probably going to have to move one of the centre-halves out. And you would hope that would be Vestergaard, but then how many suitors does Vestergaard actually have? Ajaya, the thing about him, Mark, is I've watched him play, right? He's good at the position that he plays in. You know, he's centre half, as I say, Norwegian. You know, but the one thing I would say about him is he's already left Celtic.
Yep.
If you watched him, when they were playing in the European Cup / Champions League qualifier.
Yep.
Right? He was all over the place. His mind wasn't on the job at all. It was as if he was doing a Dejan Lovren.
Yep.
You know, his head was in London and the rest of his body was still in Glasgow.
Interesting you should say London, actually, because he's also been linked with West Ham. West Brom have apparently loads of interest, but he's also been linked with West Ham. But also, AC Milan are reportedly said to have expressed an interest. So if somebody said to him, AC Milan are interested, he's probably gone, oh!
Right, I mean, AC Milan, don't get me wrong, AC Milan's gone down the pecking order in terms of top Italian clubs these days, right? You know, it's Juve, Inter Milan really these days. But what I would say in regards to that, Mark, is I'd be very surprised if AC Milan is interested in Christoph Ajega.
Yeah, exactly.
I would really be surprised if they were.
Yeah.
You know, as far as anybody else goes, who knows? But there's a man that's already moved clubs as far as I can see.
Absolutely right.
Although I have to say, you know, he did do better, you know, domestically at the weekend there.
Yeah.
But again, you know, it's Scottish football. Is he testing himself? Because at the end of the day, you know, he couldn't get the performance together in the European qualifiers,
Absolutely right.
European Cup qualifiers.
Yep, no, very true. No, I think we'll move on from that one. It'd be interesting to see if we do get him in. I mean, he could be quite a decent guy to get in, and we could have two really promising youngsters in him and Salisu. So if we do get him, that could prove to be quite a good partnership, couldn't it, moving forward, age-wise and potential-wise. See what happens on that one. I mean, we certainly think we probably need another centre half, don't we? Because we are a little bit like we feel in that area, but I think we felt that way for a couple of seasons now, haven't we?
Yeah, 100%.
So move on to news now.
He is good enough. It's just about whether you know. It's at the moment he's not applying himself because he's had his head turned by other clubs.
Absolutely.
But obviously, if he came here, knuckle down, you know, he'd be a good signing.
Yeah,
but it just depends on price.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Right, well, so move on to the next stories now. So this relates to Mario Lemina and Harrison Reed. Harrison Reed's obviously completed a permanent move to Fulham. Probably deserves his move after the efforts he made for them, obviously being out on loan. He's decided his future lies with them. They've obviously given him regular football. Not a real surprise, Mark. Bit of a loss for Saints, I would say. But
not at all. Harrison Reed.
Please for him.
Harrison Reed is a player that's very much in a similar mould to Scott Parker.
Yeah.
You know, if you watch the way Scott Parker played in the centre midfield,
absolutely.
You know, either for Chelsea or West Ham, he's very, very similar to the way Harrison Reed plays. So Harrison Reed, to me, has found a home for himself. You know, and the thing is, bitterly disappointed it didn't work out for him at Saints.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
You know, I do think that we kind of mismanaged him a little bit at times.
Yeah.
You know, there was times that he should have went out on loan when he didn't.
Yeah. You
know, to further his career and stuff like that there. And then there was times when we sent him out on loan and we probably should have kept him.
Absolutely.
But having said all that, you know, I wish him well. And then Mario Lemina, obviously, you know, there's a footballer in there.
There is.
But you don't see enough of it. And
exactly that.
Unfortunately, what happened last summer was, you know, got his head turned by paper talk, which is probably his agent putting him out there, saying, you know, Man United's interested, Arsenal's interested. And then every day it was changing and we were going through all the European leagues. And he ended up in Turkey.
Yep.
And you sort of sit there and you think, you know, but once people start believing their own hype, there's only one way it's going to go, and that's out of the football club.
Yeah, that's right, absolutely. Like you say, there's a player in there. His has never been there, has it? And I was reading the club statement. It's quite telling, because normally you read these statements when players are released. And it's quite telling, because it literally says, Southampton midfielder Mario Lemina has completed a season-long loan move to Fulham. 26-year-old joined Scott Parker's side ahead of the 2020-21 campaign as they return to the Premier League, having won promotion via the Championships playoffs. Lemina, who joined Saints from Juventus in 2017, also spent last season on loan with Turkish club Galatasaray, but now returns to England. The club wishes Mario well for the season ahead. That is literally all the club statement says. Okay?
Yeah. And all
And you
I
compare
wanna
that
say
to
on
Harrison
the rest
Reed.
of this- Mark, sorry. All I want to say on the rest of this article before we move on, right, is let's hope Fulham stay up, because then they'll pay a transfer fee. Because if Fulham go down,
Yep.
he ends up back at Southampton, right? So there must be thousands upon thousands of Saints fans that are hoping, right, as well as us staying up, right, Fulham will become our second club for the season because we want to get rid of them.
Yeah, I've got a real funny feeling there can be a few Saints fans who are going to secretly be Fulham fans this season, willing them to do well and willing
That's
Lamina
right,
to have a
that's what I'm
stomper of a season. There'll be people wanting Lamina to have a standout season, to be fair. But yeah, it's quite a contrast. You read obviously what they've said in regards to Harrison Reed in relation to Mario Lamina, and it says Southampton Football Club can confirm that midfielder Harrison Reed completed a permanent move to Fulham. Reed 25 made the switch to Craven Cottage ahead of the 2020-21 campaign, having also spent last season on loan with the club. Reed played 28 times for Fulham during the 2019-20 season as a key member. It just goes down the whole thing and basically says the club would like to thank him for all his hard work and dedication throughout his time, both as an academy and first team player, and wish him all the best for the future. Nothing like that for Mario. It's just off you go to Fulham, Mario, see you later. Which is quite a contrast there, but yeah, crazy. So last one of the lot relates to Southampton. The club now turn their attention to Olivier Ntcham. Southampton would like to sign a new central midfielder before the window shuts, before the end of the transfer window. I'm not going to say January because we're not in January, but the Saints would like to sign Olivier Ntcham before the window shut. The Celtic man wants to move away from the club. Saints just moved 2 midfielders to Fulham over the weekend. It seems like a match that would benefit all parties. Saints have really started focusing on the Celtic midfielder after saw one of their targets move to Juventus ahead of the Premier League club. Allegedly moved to Juventus ahead of us. We don't know if that player was actually coming here or not. Anyway, Ntcham is a sought after man. Southampton seems to be the best landed spot for the player. He fits the system well as the type of midfielder Ralph needs. The Scottish club missed out on Champions League and will not be receiving any money from that, so selling players may have to happen.
All I would say about that article, Mark, is let's be honest, every other central midfielder's fallen by the wayside that we've been linked with. They've either signed new deals or moved to other clubs.
Yep.
Right? He's been in the offing for a while now. If we are going to sign him, Saints need to stop messing about.
Yep.
Stop letting the grass grow under their feet. They know they need a central midfielder. It may not be him. It may be somebody off our radar that we haven't heard of before. But if it is him, stop letting the grass grow under your feet and get something done, because it's an area that needs addressing this season.
And that's it. That's it for me. That's it for the two Saints today. It's goodbye from myself, Mark C.
And goodbye, everybody. Take care of one another. Look after each other.
Yeah, and just like to remind everybody quickly, go onto our Facebook page, The Two Saints Show. You can catch our latest podcast on there. Message us directly. We can send you a copy of the podcast. Or you can go onto our YouTube channel, The Two Saints Podcast Show. You can also get the podcast via Acast, Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So those are ways. And we've also got our Fantasy Premier League. The name of the league is The Two Saints Podcast Show. So go on there, and the code you'll need for that is LLV4C4. So please join the Fantasy Premier League for The Two Saints Show, and we'd love to see you there, and we look forward to it. Right, that's all from us, and all that's left for me to say is join us again next week when the two Saints go marching in again. And just remember, Greg Dixon's always on before us with decades of pop. I appreciate Greg plugging us every week, and we've done the same for him. Goodbye, everybody. Take care, and we'll speak to you soon.